we're on the last raw material removal cut, and this is the big one here. This is where it gets scary, because if you notice, what you got going on is an angle like this, approximately 20 degrees. It's not a straight roof that goes back. Once again, they did this to push the movement of air to that side right there, and we're going to unpush it so that it uses more of the unshrouded side of the valve. You can see where I already formed my trench, which, give you a tip, an indicator on this head that you went the right depth is when you bust through the stud boss hole. So let's see if we can break a hole here. Alright. And trying to level it, I'm hardly touching here. I'm removing material all over this side. I think I moved the port on you a little. In reference here, it's kind of like anything else, like when I put the tubes in. I'm looking for a marker at all times, and you can just about find something in every port that you go off of as a reference point. Of course, my mapping is my real trick, but what I wanted to show you here is what I've done. Here's a port where when I was cutting, you can see that hole. That's where the stud comes through, the rocker stud. Okay, with my big ball I've cut, it's broke through. But now let's go to another port that didn't happen on. There's one that it didn't happen on, and also the one beside of it, although you can't see. You can't see the break. So what I do in that case, to reference everything, is go back. I got old Digger here. By the way, I actually drawed and designed this burr and sent it to a company that made it for me some 20 years ago. And I was supposed to have the exclusive rights. The company changed hands and they sell them. I really don't care anymore. I've done gotten past all that. But anyway, what I'm going to do is go back in here and dig just a little bit. Alright, there it is. It started to break. Now that's as far as I'm going, because I got a break. Now I got to go back in the rest of the ports and get the same break right there, where I can come back in with my ball and I'm going to have a big gaping hole in the top of the head. But that is going to tell me, an indicator, that I've got the height and the amount dug out pretty close to where when I go in there with my snap gauges and start to map coming out, I'm going to be deadly close to all of them being the same. That's what I wanted to show you real quick before I went in with material removal. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and cut the ones that need it, get them to break, and then switch to my balls and then go back at it again. Alright? Now that the trench is dug back, I'm going to show you. I'm using the diameter of this burr in a way as a marker. Now I know that sounds crazy, but by going in here and going over as far as I can without digging in, it's leveling it. Taking the corners of the trench that was dug and pulling them in. Okay, so that way it's what it's doing is it's kind of letting me know, all right, I've got to this point, I don't need to go no further. Now it's time to switch to a much smaller burr. I'm going to go to a little bitty head to do some blending, because all this one is a big raw material removal deal, hog master. All right, so anyway, I'll go ahead to the next, finish this up and switch burrs, and I'll show you how I finally pull this in and what method. I'm not going to show the math because it's something I'm not going to do for free. But I will show you a couple of pickup points. With a stage 4, I give 4 pickup points. These are measuring points of consistency. Okay? Now, after about 15 hours of raw material removal, we're finally to this turkey. Look at the difference while I got it here. This was the burr that was cutting the raw meat out to the markers I had made with the smaller ones. Let's get a little bit close up here. Alright. This is what we're going in there now. And this is a brand new razor sharp edge, by the way. And all I'm going to do with this is try to pull in the corners and blend to a point. There'll still be a little bitty line. When all that's done, I'll have to go back in there with that one I was using to cut the points just to get it to pull in. But basically what I'm doing now, this is the part that takes the time, and there is no substitute for it. You cannot get around it. This is what has to be done. You can't run it fast. It runs at about a medium speed of the die grinder. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to take ruffles, have ridges. It will make them disappear. I'm going to turn a ruffle into a Pringle in one swift stroke here. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you how I'm going to do it, and this is about the speed. And it's doing two things. It's taking the ruffle ridges out in the corners and the trenches. But it's also what I'm doing part of the measurement with inside the port. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But by the cutters being smaller, if you look at the blade difference between this and this, the blades are closer. It's not going to be apt to dig as much. So the metal will come a lot closer, and then finally, of course, when I switch to the finger, as I call it, it's even going to give it a lot smoother finish, which will set it up for the stones. So whenever I switch to this one, if I still drank, I'd probably pull out a bottle of Old Turkey right now and go, thank God, because I've got through most of the scary part. Not saying the battle's over, but a big part of it's over. If I'm going to bust through, now will be when I'm using this, when it's going to happen. So anyway, let's go ahead and continue on with the LT1 project. I'm really excited about this. What I'm hoping for is a 185cc runner from a 170. That's a 15cc hit. If I get 185 with the tubes in the head and the work I'm going to do on the valve job and the bowls, this, I know it's hard for y'all to understand at this point, but what you would have is a 185 head that will kick the shit out of any 200 or 205cc head that AFR or Edelbrock has got to offer, because it's about the shape, and they can't put the tubes, they don't straighten the walls because of machining processes. This is a tailor-made 185 for a 350 cubic inch motor, and this thing will flow gangbusters. Keep in mind, I've kept the original square. Not went bigger, not made a funnel. And remember what I told you? I can't move this wall over. As a matter of fact, I got one port that had a bad casting shift, and I almost busted through in a push rod area. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, see where I marked it? The reason I marked it is I started to see the aluminum bubble. So I cannot let it touch when I'm doing my porting. I have to either go below it or go above it, and I can only make a pass maybe with my stone to pull that in. That's where the aluminum started to buckle. Yet the measurements all the same everywhere else, and I was on the safe side. So you see how easy it is with aluminum. If it's got a core shift in it, you can get in trouble real quick. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead now and take on the tedious part of doing all the blending and pulling all this in, and I will stop and let you take a look at it, because we're only at this stage of the porting. I'm concerned with the runner from here all the way to the short turn and on the roof. When we get ready to do the bowl area, it has to be done totally different. We'll have to put the guides in, the valve job, and complete all that, and then go in there and do the bowls. There's a reason for this, which I'm going to give y'all a heads up on it. Okay, that's all for now. See y'all in a few hours. Okay, I know it's kind of hard to give you this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the film roll. I just charged the compressor. I'm just going to show you, basically, this port is from the big burr, and I'm going to go in here and try to level it, and I'm going to show you the amount of material removal blending here real quick. See, at this point here, I'm just going to let it roll and show you. I'm keeping the cutter at a slow to medium speed with not much pressure on the trigger here. See, notice how when I come from the back up, then I'll make a quick swoop back. And then, of course, then I'll hit the wall where I'm going to put the tube in. Now I got to go over here. I change walls frequently. It breaks the boredom and sends me in another area, and it kind of helps because it becomes very monotonous. So I'm going to pull this wall in. This is the port that's about to bust where that black dot. So the black dot I mark reminds me, hey, watch out, you're in a dangerous area, slow down. Just I want to touch for a minute. Let's say in the end I end up busting it right there, okay? All's not lost, because remember that right here is in an area where the push rod goes. There's no pressure on it. Now, if it was in a water pressure area, I've got cures for it. I have the pumping method. I have all kinds of tricks. Still, though, on the street, I don't like to do it, although I've had a pretty good success rate. But in an area right here where there's no pressure, you know, it's just an oil drain return, there's not a problem in the world with putting epoxy here. Just remember this: you have to put more epoxy on this side than that side where the hole at, where the push rod is, because as long as you can push the epoxy through both sides, bring it in big here, then polish it and level it, and then put the epoxy on this side here on the outside, and then just kind of sand roll it, you'll never have a problem. As a matter of fact, one of my customers the other day brought me a pair of heads to resurface, you know, valve job, guides, and other stuff 14 years ago, and this guy drives it on the street, and 3 of the areas right here are epoxy, so don't be scared of it. More epoxy information later on that. I'll get into that. I'm going to do a whole article on that for you guys that poke holes, and that's when we get into the welding and all kinds of things. But don't fret it, but know its limits. It's a standard, but I just want to take a minute and show you that right there so that you know what you're up against. Core shift got me, and there's nothing I can do about it, but it did not bust. Anyway, I just wanted to show you the blending as I'm going real slow and just pulling the blending in. And this is not just cosmetic, by the way. It's you don't want humps and ridges and all this stuff in here. Okay, that's pretty much what I've done to each one of them. I just wanted you to take a look. See, let me blow the stuff. Alright, and that's what we got. And once again, from this point on, I'll turn the head over, lay it down, and use the finger to really pull it in nice. Okay. Thing I might add, you can see now my measurement tool's got a little bit bigger. Okay, there's a little bit more of a gap on this side. Notice right here, that right there is where the tube goes in. It just barely breaks, and when I slide the tube in, there'll just be a little bit of protrusion. Alright, just wanted to point that out to you DIY guys. Okay, I'm running out of tape, but I just wanted to touch one thing if it'll let me do it. This is a finished guide in the bobtailing bottlenose effect in relation to cross-sectional areas here and here. Look what a difference that makes. Okay, although you really can't see it, look how the reflection of light, now I got a gray background, look how well it's lit up, and look at the dullness here. I'm going to give you guys a secret. This is a big one. Light reflection is a big part of going in here and grinding, because you can look at the light and its reflection, and it is a big indicator of flow path. Okay, this is all for tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to show you, but it takes a tremendous amount of time using 3 different bits to form that bobtail. Here they are real quick.